Hi everyone. Happy Book Club Friday, my favorite day of the week. This week we read a book called This Is How It Always Is, and it was actually a new book for me. It was recommended to me by Phoebe, so it was really fun for me to read it for the first time, kind of alongside with you guys. And as I was reading it, I kind of realized it'd be a good book for my mom to read as well, and Mother's Day is coming up, which coincidentally I feel like this book actually kind of goes along with that really well. You kind of feel the appreciation for what mothers and parents in general go through to understand their children, to protect their children, to love their children the best that they can. And, it's a book kind of about identity and shaping your story, like how much of your own story you can write. It was a really incredible book. I loved it. My mom loved it. I think it really can change your perspective. And before I bring Phoebe on, I just wanted to read a really good quote from the book that I think I really connected to and a lot of people will really connect to. This is how it always is. You have to make these huge decisions on behalf of your kid, this tiny human whose fate and future is entirely in your hands, who trusts you to know what's good and right and then to be able to make that happen. You never have enough information. You don't get to see the future. And if you screw up, if with your incomplete contradictory information you make the wrong call, nothing less than your child's entire future and happiness is at stake. It's impossible, it's heartbreaking, it's maddening, but there's no alternative. So I think without further ado, I'm going to try to bring Phoebe on here so we can talk about this incredible book. Hi.
Hey.
Thanks for coming on here.
No, thank you for having me. This is
This
such a
book,
treat.
I cannot tell. I didn't know what to expect when I was reading it, and I was in tears for most of this week, I would say.
Yeah, me too. It was really special because I didn't know much about it. I mean, even the back of the book is kind of ambiguous. It doesn't
Yeah, it
really
doesn't say
share that
much.
much.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I mean, as I kind of got through even just like the first few chapters, I was just so overwhelmed with how powerful this book is. I mean, I was the
Yeah,
same. I was a mess by
a
the end of
mess.
reading this.
Like this morning as I was finishing it, I was just in tears. And it's like
Yeah.
as you read it, you're like walking deeper and deeper into just this like intensity, but it's such an incredible book. And I didn't even realize like it's so perfect for Mother's Day coming up and like
Oh yeah,
being
I
a
didn't.
parent.
It is Mother's Day. This,
Yeah.
yeah. It was my mom told me. It was sweet. You said your mom is reading as well, but my mom told me about it at Christmas time, and she kept saying, she's like, read this book.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I finished it, I was like, when you like hold a book and you're like, I
Yeah.
don't want to let it go. I want to like reread from the beginning again and pretend like I don't know how it's gonna go. But yeah, I think what's so special about this book is, obviously you and I are not parents.
Yeah.
But there were so many pieces in this that I took out of it, and just the kind of complexities of raising just children in general, let alone a children who, has to overcome so many challenges. And the character of Poppy, I don't know, I missed the beginning of your live. Did you kind of give a synopsis?
I didn't really give a background, so
Which is probably good.
that's why I wanted to
haven't read it yet.
Yeah.
Should I give a tiny,
Yeah, do a
spoiler free?
Do a summary for the people.
So the book is about a family. The parents are Rosie and Pan, and they have 5 young children. And all 5 children are born boys, but their youngest, Claude, doesn't identify as male. And, the book kind of follows Claude's journey from a very, very young age as she kind of becomes Poppy, who is who she identifies with. And it's so beautiful because Poppy, the character of Poppy, is the one that's the least confused of all the characters in the books. That's what is just so beautiful about the character. And it's kind of everyone else around her learning to accept her and tolerate her, and this, the characters at her school. But throughout the whole book, she's the one that is so strong-willed in her conviction of who she really
Mm-hmm.
is, even if she wasn't born necessarily as female. She knows that she identifies as a girl, and it's everyone else around her that kind of needs to learn to love her as she is.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's so interesting being, I think, that young and knowing right away who you are, and that kind of like the confidence that that can give you, but also this sense of not really understanding why people don't get it or think it's wrong. And, you know, I thought one of the most interesting parts for me was in when she goes back to kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about what changed over the break, and, you know, a kid like, I lost my tooth and I went on vacation. And also, Claude is now a Poppy.
Yeah.
And those kids didn't have any more
change.
questions for her than they did for the kid that lost their tooth.
Yeah.
And I thought that was amazing. But then it's like the older kids are then the ones who come and have these struggles with understanding it and kind of making fun of her, making fun of her brothers.
Yes.
And it's kind of like how, as we grow up, you know, these children, they have no problem accepting Poppy for Poppy. But kind of the ways that the identity, like boy versus girl, how over time those get embedded in us, and then you know, those kind of ideas are just like so deeply implanted in our brains that it's hard for people to comprehend.
There's also that beautiful, and I tried to go back and find the exact quote, but Pen and Rosie go and see a therapist, and the therapist says, who's also like an amazing character.
He's like Yoda.
He's the best.
I love it.
But they, you know, he asked them to put into two columns boy behavior and girl behavior. And, you know, all this tension arises because Pen, who's the father, he's sort of not necessarily your generic kind of stereotypical father. He's the one that stays at home. He's mainly the one looking after the children. He's sort of romantic, creative, and then Rosie is the breadwinner, and so and she is a doctor, and so already that's sort of questioning and challenging some stereotypical traditional gender.
Yeah, like when Poppy's like, can I be a girl doctor?
Yeah.
And the mom's like, well, I'm a girl doctor.
Yeah.
But, this sort of gender roles that we put with jobs.
Yeah. And so that, I really identified with that as well, because it is, and you know, that it's obviously so complicated on both sides, but you know, when there's also another quote about how when little girls wear trousers and want to play soccer, their parents are celebrated. But if a young boy wants to, you know, identify forever or a period of time as a girl and wear girl clothes, which again is like
an insane,
it's it just like opened up so much kind of dialogue with myself, and even the way I was raised and what was tolerated for me as a young child. And you know, I'm sure it's the same with you. I was brought up with by very open-minded parents.
Absolutely. And I think we get spoiled by that because
it's a luxury.
Then you forget that there are people in the world that are much less tolerant, and it's heartbreaking. And I think also understanding that there's this older generation that has a very solid idea of boy versus girl, and how now the newer generations, like, there is really no normal now, and everything is celebrated, and we forget that, you know, there are, like, they ended up having to move to a different city because Poppy wasn't being tolerated, and that's an idea that gratefully is so far away from, I think, our beliefs, but it is still happening, and I think that's what's so heartbreaking about it.
I mean, even I didn't know the statistics, which it kind of touches on the book, and I know we both watched that Vice documentary as well, but the statistic of, I think it's 41% of trans youth and children either attempt or succeed at committing suicide. I mean, that, when you kind of read that in the book, I mean, that was one of the first times I was like, I'm reading something that I sort of knew a little bit about, but not enough to understand
from this open sort of headspace, and you realize that, and they say in that Vice video that you showed me, it's talking about how the support of a family brings those statistics way down. Right. And like, that's what's so beautiful about this book is without the support, I think, you know, just like how society was raising Poppy was as a boy and to be a boy. And I think without like the support of her parents and her brothers especially, she could have been unhappy her whole life, not feeling like herself. And that's why I think it's so important to have this like supportive family behind you.
To empower her. And it just it's just even the kind of bathroom bill issue that, you know, I kind of knew peripherally, but kind of to read like such a you know, personal experience, and obviously this is fictionalized, but this represents many thousands and thousands and thousands of children out there. But even kind of the specifics of what that entails, you know, if a child who identifies as a girl or a boy isn't able to use the bathroom that they choose, like that poses so many issues
that
as
must
well.
feel to have to like go about the world feeling like you're not being celebrated for being yourself. And this sort of like, I think where Poppy starts to get confused is she's like, well, am I lying to people? But you're not lying about who you are. And and I think that sense of like when she's trying to decide who she really wants to be, it's the other people who are making her feel like she shouldn't be who she is. And in that video, it kind of, you know, this I think the little girl is talking about how they used to dress her up as a boy and it made her super unhappy. And she always knew. And then when she finally got the words to tell her parents, you know, I'm a girl, I don't want to be a boy. And how you can just have these, you can know from such a young age and have the this kind of all these things available to you, but you know there are still places that you can't use the right bathroom and you feel very excluded and
and misunderstood and judged. And I think even like, and I can't speak for you, but like high school and elementary school and junior school is so difficult anyway, and to navigate you know those years anyway, and you know to take a character like Poppy or any other kid that's sort of dealing with something that, like Poppy is, there's so much, like it's so brave, you know, like you keep saying, like anyone that can be like strong in who they are, and especially from a young age, it's just so inspiring, you know.
Absolutely.
And just so beautiful. But yeah, that Vice documentary is really interesting, and I could put it on a link or something.
Yeah, no, I think
if anyone else wants to watch it.
As my mom was reading the book, I'm like, and I have a video for you to watch. Because that really taught me so much as well. And I think this sort of what a lot of parents experience is this sort of feeling like they lost a child. And I know especially Rosie, the mom, starts to feel like that a bit. You know, like she lost one of her sons, but I think as she learns from Poppy and like as her child starts to teach her a lot of things about the world, she realizes she didn't lose anyone. They're right there. And the only difference, she says in the book, between Poppy and Claude is that Claude was really sad and Poppy was really happy and brave. And I know that part made me, that part I was fully bawling. Like I think I cried everything out today, but and that to me was so powerful because it's so true. Like you just want your children to be happy no matter what. You'd hope, at least, and unfortunately that's not true for everyone, and that to me is so heartbreaking. But I think this story specifically is very celebratory of Poppy becoming who she is. And it talks a lot about gender stereotypes, kind of how they affect young girls versus how they affect young boys. And a lot of, you know, her brothers are going through so many issues having to be like men and fight and feel like they have to be masculine. Even though most of her brothers aren't traditionally masculine anyways. And then girls are made to feel less powerful, or they can't have certain jobs. The fact that Poppy's already in like first grade being like, well, I can't do that because I'm a girl. It's so upsetting.
And like the outside influences, you know, even within a family that is so tolerant and accepting of her, you know, how dangerous the outside influences, you know, there's 7 hours a day or 6 hours a day that she's at school, that she is being influenced by her teachers, by the principal, by her friends, and how that can, you know, overshadow all the work that her parents and her brothers are doing at home to make her feel accepted. There's that other beautiful, and it's a longer quote, but it kind of speaks on which is why, you know, even just as a parent, I'm sure this book is so powerful, because raising a child is never easy. You make choices
Yeah.
every day, like that quote you were sharing at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning. But when Rosie says, I just want her life to be easy, and Penn, the father, is like, I don't want her life to be easy.
Mm-mm.
You know, life isn't worth living if it's just handed to you. Everything is a
Mm-hmm.
struggle. And that was so beautiful, because it's something that, you know, it just resonated with me. You know, we think everything's meant to just be handed to us and meant to be easy, but, you know, there's nothing more rewarding than working hard for
Mm-hmm.
something. And same with Poppy, you know, that she really believed that that's the life she wanted to live. And yeah, there was just something just so beautiful about that little, I think it just, the quote was just like, nothing that's good is
Mm-hmm.
ever going to be easy. But in saying that, on a bigger scale, I do think as a society, and I think even now we're living in way more of a progressive society, especially where we live, you know, than
Absolutely,
years
yeah.
ago. But I mean, there's still so much work to be done on so many different levels to make children like Poppy feel accepted and loved and tolerated. And
Mm-hmm.
it really, I mean, I was reading a little bit about the bathroom. I mean, the fact that 75-year-old white men in Congress are making decisions for 6-year-old girls in
Mm.
kindergarten is,
So
I
tough.
mean, like,
It's so
infuriating,
tough.
you know? And
And that it can be taken away, you know, your rights as a woman or a man, or
mhm,
whatever you choose to identify with, can be taken away from you so easily and so quickly by people who may not understand and probably don't understand. And that's why I think this book is so important to read, because you're also hearing the less PC side of it, you know, the thoughts that the parents are having where they're like,
yes,
well, this, what if people think this, or should we keep it a secret? You're not just hearing, you know, you're really feeling what they're feeling and going through it
yes,
with them, and kind of seeing those more vulnerable states where she maybe misses her son, or
yeah,
she's worried that, you know, things aren't going to be easier.
yeah,
When I remember when Poppy's having her first sleepover,
mhm,
and Rosie has to explain to her why she can't change in front, or maybe she shouldn't change in
mm,
front of her friend. And there's kind of something so beautiful about this innocence that Poppy doesn't understand
yeah,
there's anything different about
yeah,
her. And I think that's part of the beauty of knowing so young and
mhm,
transitioning so young, is you don't already have these ideas that society just tends to like plant in your brain about
yeah,
what a girl is and what a boy is, and that
right,
there can be an in between. And there's that character in when they go and work in the hospital, just
yeah,
Poppy and Rosie. She kind of says, you know, we're always changing as people, and
yeah,
you're allowed to be in an in between state, and that's
yeah,
okay. You have
yeah,
to allow yourself to be there.
yeah,
And she says this to Rosie, and I think it's very eye opening for Rosie, because she realizes it doesn't have to be one or the other.
yes,
And it's that moment of clarity of like, why are we pushing her so hard to know herself? Because
yeah,
none of us really
yeah,
understand who we are at any point
yeah,
in life, I don't think.
yeah. Yeah, the turn, and not to give anyone who hasn't read it, but that kind of last few chapters where, without giving anything away, Poppy and Rosie travel to Thailand, right?
Yes, yeah, I believe.
And even just, you know, the pieces that I took out of that about, you know, their culture and their acceptance and all of that. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it was, the whole book was just so, there was so many pieces of it that I took from
Mm-hmm.
it, from it.
And your mom recommended it to you?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I mean,
Thanks,
I
moms.
immediately, like, after the first two chapters, I was like, Mom, you have to read this book.
Yeah.
It's so well done. But I also, like, do you share books with your mom a lot?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
it's,
like,
she's in Australia right now, but
mhm.
she sends us over books, and she's always,
Oh.
she's on in real, this is why it's so nice, because I grew up where she would have book club, which I think was like half reading and half drinking wine with her
Yeah,
girlfriends. But I've
yep.
never really been in a book club, and so this was so nice to even just be able to talk about books with someone, you know,
Yeah,
in
well,
this
I
kind
always
of
feel like
way.
such a nerd, because, like, whenever I'm reading a book, I reference it so much.
Yeah.
And so thankfully this week I was able to talk to my mom about it all the time, but like the rest of
Right.
my family is, we're driving them crazy because
Right.
this is all we're talking about. But I'm so grateful to have people who like have such a passion for reading as well. And I was so happy because it's hard for me to find, you know, there's like so many books out there, which is awesome because you never run out. But finding
It
a
can be
book like
overwhelming.
this that's like so special. It's been a while since I've read a book that has affected me like this and made me as emotional as this book. And
Yeah, I feel like
I
I probably have a lot of friends who are laughing right now because I just kept screaming. I mean, anyone that's watching, we've never met each other before.
no.
You were doing the book club and I sent you the photo of the book, which I was sending to everyone because I was the same. I was like, I need to be able to talk about this book with anyone. But yeah, it's so nice that you're doing this. This is your 4th week of doing book club?
I think it's my 4th or 5th week. Yeah, I've always wanted to be in a book club, and I always try to recommend books to my friends and get recommendations. So to have people to talk about books with is like my favorite thing ever, and I could obviously go on forever. So I thought, because I swear I'm like more social than I've ever been through the internet, because and now that like suddenly we can't go out, I'm like, oh, I'm like talking to them and them.
Yeah.
And so it's been so fun to be able to like meet people on Instagram Live and talk about books with them.
Yeah,
That's totally
it's
how I connect with
nice.
people.
I mean, I'm a real nerd. I like forward a book report because I wanted to be able to, but like, as I was
By the
writing,
way,
I was like, yes, nerds. I was like, I should start doing this every time I read a book. Like, it's sort of nice to just sort of write why you like it, what you related to. There's something kind of not like nice about really kind of questioning what your thoughts of the book were. And
yeah,
so
and how it makes you question your own ideas and your own morals, things like that, and you like need to talk about it. I saw that you saw Slave Play, and it was the same thing with watching that. I went with my mom, and afterwards we sat down at dinner and we talked for like 3 hours because we were so affected by it.
Yeah, I loved that play. That
Incredible,
was amazing.
Yeah.
What are you reading next? Because I'll stop reading it and then I can follow
We're still
deciding.
I think we're still deciding. I was thinking we might do a play, which could be fun.
Oh, nice.
But honestly, like, it's so fun for me to read new things because the first 3 weeks, I think I did books I had already read, so it was nice, but I was like rereading them. And so to like talk about something that's so fresh, like I was so excited to do this today because I had so many things to say.
It's nice when it's fresh on you. I know I was sort of jealous that you were reading it this week and I'd read it like 2 weeks ago. I was like, there's little bits that I kind of have maybe forgotten parts of. Well, I look forward to knowing what your next book suggestion is. I'm reading the it's called My Dark Vanessa right now.
Oh,
it's really good. It's pretty
fiction.
Yes, it's sort of it's kind of a modern day Lolita from Lolita's perspective as she questions. It kind of flashes between her relationship at 16 with a teacher and then her relationship at 33 with the same man and sort of coming to terms with what really happened to her versus the romantic version that she sort of told herself. And I don't know if
the idea
Lolita, that kind of
that's very that might have to be the next book actually. I'm like,
well then I'll see you next Friday. No,
oh my god, wait, no, that's actually, I need to read that book because that's very okay, yeah.
Thank you so much for letting me come on and talk about this.
Thank you for doing this. This was so fun. I hope we can have a real book club eventually.
I know.
I've always wanted to be in one, so if you want to join, please.
Well, we'll have our notes ready.
I know. We'll be the founding members of a book club. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Have a good weekend. Thanks anyone
who's
watching.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.
Well, apparently we're starting a book club, an actual book club when this is all over, but thank you guys all for watching today. This was such a powerful book. I'm gonna put the link to the Vice video that Phoebe sent me to watch in my bio, I think, or my story, because I think if you read the book, that's a really, really good follow-up to have. And it just follows the story of 4 trans people of different ages and their struggles, their experiences, also the different families' perspectives, talks a lot about hormone blockers, the controversy there, things like that. And I just think it's really educational. And, you know, it's stuff like this that some people are afraid to talk about or don't really understand. I think the best thing that you can do is educate yourself on it. And that's what I like to do. You know, I obviously can't speak for these people, but I want to support the best way that I can and educate myself the best way that I can. And I really highly recommend this book if you guys haven't read it already. It is called This Is How It Always Is by Lori Frankel. And if you guys have any questions or anything, I can definitely take those because I would really love to hear from you guys. Or any recommendations for books that you would... Oh, I have a question for my mom. Oh, which parent do you think handled it better? Wow. God, that's so tough. I think it's really difficult because, you know, as a kid, you look at your parents like superheroes, like they know the answer to everything, and they don't. But I think Penn, the father, was more willing to admit that he didn't have the answer to everything, whereas Rosie, the mom, took it a bit more personal when she felt like it more felt like personal failure to her, I think, when things didn't go right with Poppy or with Claude. And there was something really beautiful about Penn, the father's imagination, and he would tell all the boys and Poppy stories every night. And he said this amazing quote. He said, "Just because it's made up doesn't mean it isn't real. Made up is the most powerful real there is." And, you know, that doesn't have to just refer to a bedtime story. I think that's a beautiful, beautiful quote. And it's just really important to, I think, share our stories where we can. And human connection is so important, especially now. So the more you can share your experiences with people who might have gone through the same thing, parents who might have gone through the same thing, none of us are alone ever. And that's one of the main reasons I did this book club, is so we could all know that we have each other even in times that we can't physically have each other there. Thanks for the question, Mom. Are there any other questions that anyone has? Or Mom, if you want to give me another question, please feel free. Also, like, I really do want to read books that you guys are interested in, so please don't hesitate to recommend books for me, because I'm always wanting to read a new fun book. Or I was thinking of doing a play next time, if you guys would be into that. But if there's no more questions, I will... Oh, we have... Thanks, Mom. You saved me. I was just to talk about how it affected the brothers. Yeah, that's actually a really important thing. You know, I have siblings. I have one brother. But I really do feel like in families where you're close, one person struggles or everyone struggles. And, you know, as Phoebe said, I think some of the brothers were actually struggling even more than Poppy herself was, you know, whether it was with these issues, with them getting bullied for having a trans sister, which, you know, to me is such a heartbreaking idea. But I think, you know, kind of this idea of, like, at the end of the day, they can all come together and, you know, their dad's telling them bedtime stories, and they really did love and support their sister through everything, and that's what family's there for. But there's a really great quote, and I don't have it in front of me, but it says something like how people's struggles tend to not all happen at the same time. I think Rosie says that, and how it's kind of, in a family, we make room for the person who's struggling the most, and we help them. And then, you know, you can kind of, like, continue going like that, so everyone gets their chance to have that support that they need, because having a sibling who's going through something, it's important not to let your own needs go unnoticed, and that can easily happen. So I think it's important that the brothers, you know, had each other, and also vocalized their struggles with their parents, and also questioned their parents, and you know, they stood up to them, and they asked, you know, and they called them contradictory, and they really did try to all learn from each other. Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Mom, for the great questions. I'm gonna make you read every book club book now, so get ready. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your Friday, and I will see you next week. I'll announce the book either today or tomorrow. Yeah, thank you all for watching.